Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It means the world to me. Thank you very, very, very much. And today we welcome along another writer to the show by the name of Maria Speight. How do I say your surname, Maria? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you got it. It's like the number 8. Brilliant.
Speight. Cool. Yes. Yeah. It's like a common thing for me. I always mispronounce people's names on here. So Maria trained at the Bridge Theatre Training Company, and she is a writer with a journey into the business that started in HR, would you believe? She attended the Pensacola, did I say that right?
Pensacola. Oh, you've done your research.
Pensacola, there we go. She attended the Pensacola College from 1990 to 2000, obtaining a high school diploma. Since then, she has gained qualifications from the Open University, focusing on human resource management and services, and a level 5 CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personal Development certificate as well. She has held positions at Workforce Development of Social Interest Group, which is as the Director of HR, Head of HR at Fusion Lifestyle, HR Manager at Innovision, Head of HR Resources at Centre 404, totaling 6.5 years experience to date in this business. But before this, she's also worked in publishing house and telemarketing, as well as being a trained dancer and published author. Now, into the arts. She has 4 new pieces of writing out, which include 2 rehearsed readings. One's called Dentures and Desire at the Southwark Playhouse on the 15th of June, Skinfluencer at the Rhino Theatre on the 19th of June, and tickets are now on sale for her brand new play, Maybe You Should Know, which will be out at the Barons Court Theatre in late August as part of the Camden Fringe, directed by my brother Adam, and link to that is down below in the description. Go and get your tickets now. We'll discuss more about that show in just a moment, but in the meantime, Maria, welcome.
Thank you. That was so exciting to hear someone else talk about my life.
Yeah, it's your life, mate. It's your life.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting. It's very HR heavy, which we will talk about, no doubt.
Yeah, it has a purpose there. This is not a HR podcast episode, guys.
No.
It's going to feed into the arts, trust me. Before we get into all that, Maria, so in your case, where did it come from? The love of the arts, writing, being in this business, where did it come from?
It's a really, really difficult question to answer because I don't remember a time not having it. I was brought up on a heavy diet of traditional Hollywood musicals and Broadway musicals, and we watched Natalia Makarova's recorded Swan Lake over and over and over again, which we had on a VHS video, and it was just always there in the background. I didn't have a particularly creative family. My dad plays guitar very well, and we were always singing. We would dress up in these little floral dresses, and I have quite a lot of siblings. I have 8 siblings, so we'd all be standing in it. Yes, I have 8 siblings, and we'd go around to local retirement homes and hospitals and sing at Christmas. It was very Sound of Music, which was very, very nice. So it's kind of always been there. But I think I've often wondered if being part of such a large family, the act of standing on stage and performing and people looking at you felt important, and that can sometimes feel like a really superficial or self-centered thing to say, but I having a child of my own now, I think it is really important to feel acknowledged and recognized. And I wonder if a lot of it came from that, this kind of act of going, I've created something, I've made something, whether it's a dance or a play or a poem or whatever it is, or even the written work, and sending it to someone to read is I am being seen as I create this thing. It didn't exist and it's come out of me. Yeah, probably a lot of songs I wrote when I was little sounded like the Hair soundtrack or the Godspell soundtrack since they were on repeat. But it's always something that I wanted to do, and over the last 40 years I've always done something towards that, no matter what else I was doing.
Nice. Yeah. Well, who was like some of your main inspirations, do you think?
Probably people that aren't very well known now. They're really old fashioned. Judy Garland was just always my number one.
We all know who Judy Garland is. Don't worry.
Everyone knows who Judy Garland is. But probably not a very current hero. I think it was just that real classic triple threat that was in that old Hollywood kind of thing, and just their voices. And I'm not trying to say that modern music isn't an art form in itself, but just that technical strong voice that people had then, where you didn't have the kind of the auto tunes and the production value that we have now. It was just that kind of fresh rawness. And I think, you know, even people like Barbra Streisand, the way that they were, they changed things for women in show business, in the performing arts, in that they took over as directors and producers, and they were often told to be very like overly controlling, but I think that was just them telling a narrative and taking back the control rather than being bossy in a bad way. So they were always very inspirational. But I grew up in the north of England, and so my favorite kind of stories are always your kitchen sink dramas, your northern, you know, Billy Elliot or Willie Russell's play, anything like that, where you can smell the acid rain and you just look at the council houses, and I'm just like, yeah, I get that, I know that. And then to, again, that act of being seen, shining a light on that part of the world in a really creative, moving way has always inspired me.
Yeah, I think Billy Elliot's a classic, isn't it? Like you can smell the acid rain, or you can smell the coal. You can just feel it in the room, can't you? And it's just, you know, I'm not a huge fan of musicals myself, other than some exceptions like Les Mis or Billy Elliot or something like that.
Yeah.
But, oh God, yeah, you go and see that. It's one of those shows you can see again and again and again, and you'll never ever get bored of it. It's just brilliant. You know,
absolutely.
I was lucky enough to speak to someone called Justin Martin, who's a director who directed Prima Facie, and was also the associate director of the original Billy Elliot in London. And he told me that he'd seen Billy Elliot like around the world, like constantly writing notes, new cast, everything. He said, I've probably seen it about 1,500 times now, but every single time I see it, I still get something, even after the 1,500th time of seeing it. But, you know, one of those shows that keeps you going, isn't it?
It is.
So yeah, I mentioned in the intro you're training at the Bridge Theatre Training Company, and you said you have quite you unfortunately didn't finish there, but you said you have quite the dropout story. So tell me about your time there and what made you want to say goodbye.
Yeah, maybe I should dramatize it a bit. I can't remember how old I was. I was in my early 20s, 23 maybe when I went. And I think when you're 23, you think you're almost past it, which is ridiculous now. And I'm 40, which I don't mind saying on a podcast. I'm really happy. But I just remember feeling like, oh, everyone's gone to uni or drama school when they were 18, 19, 20, and anything kind of past that, you're past it, you've missed the boat. And I think I'd always, for whatever opportunity, I hadn't been able to go when I was younger, mostly financial. And at that stage, I was kind of in between things and thought, is it too late? Shall I give it a go? So I've been to like youth theatres and stage schools and dancing and all of that and singing when I was younger, but not ever really took training that seriously. And I thought, you know, I'm just going to audition and see what happens. Not actually really knowing very much about drama schools in London or funding them or anything. Auditioned at the Bridge, which is quite an innovative sort of theatre training company, at least back then. I haven't been in touch with them so much now. And got offered a place, and then just kind of thought, well, hey, I didn't know that this could happen. I didn't know that I could still kind of pursue that. But it is very difficult when you're on your own financially to manage that. And I think I like I said, I grew up in a small town in the north of England, and I hadn't lived in a big city and didn't appreciate how much TFL is going to take from me every month and how much bills were. And I found it very difficult financially, going to a full-on drama school, which was an amazing experience, working in a call center, which I think you also kindly mentioned in my intro. Thank you. I've been trying to block that out for about 20 years.
Oh, sorry.
and trying to keep things going and trying to keep the inspiration. And there's this amazing artist whose surname evades me. It's going to be a very interesting podcast because I can't name drop because I can't always remember people's names. But her first name's Amy, and she does inspired writing is the name of her Instagram, and she's written this amazing book called We Need Your Art. And she talks a lot about how when you are tired and busy.
Is it Amy McNee?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We got there.
Yeah.
What great team. But she talks about being tired and weary and how that affects your art. And she gets very much into this whole thing of like, you know, the world wants to make money off people, and so it keeps them in the rat race.
Yeah.
And so we, at the end of the day, we don't have the energy to do that. And I can relate to that a lot, because I think being at drama school, which should have been an amazing time to immerse myself in honing my craft and being probably, you know, the most creative, who's lucky enough really to have graduated and then spend 40 hours a week doing what they love, you know, like it often doesn't work like that. But it's very difficult when you're on your own and trying to fund that and get through. And I find it very difficult. And the directors were great and very supportive, so I have no criticism of the drama school itself. But it's always stayed with me, having to leave, or feeling like I had to leave, and wondering if I made the right choice. And I'm back in the day, I think when I was younger, I was very black and white. I was very all or nothing, and it was like, I'm either going to do this all the way, or I'm not going to do it, because I can't be perfect at it. Whereas now I've learned that things can coexist, and your life experience enriches what you can do creatively. So yeah, that was my stint at drama school, which was not a very happy ending, but is part of my journey and part of who I've been.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So so your dropout story is basically you thought that, can I do this? Can I keep going with all this? And of course the answer is, of course you can. But but I resonate with what you say there. I was very much like that when I was 18, 19, thinking that you had to go to drama school at 18 or 19. I mean, going to drama school at 21, I mean, surely that's way too late. Surely you've gone to university, and then by then, you know, but it's absolutely not. I remember speaking to someone who went to drama school when they were 29. I know someone who went I was in a group with someone who was at drama school in their mid-30s and got there late, you know. There's no, in fact, there is no late time at all. If anyone is listening to this who's thinking about drama school and thinking that you have missed the bus, you absolutely haven't. You know, it's your time when it's your time, you know, and it doesn't matter. You could be younger, you could be older. Thing is, the point is, it's never too late, and keep going with what you're doing. Keep going.
Definitely. And I think you're just a different kind of artist. You know, acting is meant to be representative of the world, and the characters are representative of the world, and we all know that there's aesthetics involved in it, and also as young people you just have a lot more energy and you've less things tying you down, so you probably have a lot more time and space to give. But you know, Kim Hale is another of those Instagram people. God, I sound like such a millennial Instagrammer, but Kim Hale, do you know her? She's in her late 50s, and she moved to New York about 2 years ago to pursue life as a Broadway dancer. Wow. And it's just incredible. And her whole thing is dreams have no deadlines. And she's created this amazing life for herself. She's done acting and modeling and things like that. She was at the Tonys, which was quite recently. She got invited. And it's just that thing of, she was working in an office in I can't remember where it was, somewhere else in the States, and then 2 years ago she just thought, why not me? And I think the message is also that it doesn't need to be RADA or bust, you know. As much as I would love to have gone to RADA, it doesn't need to be that or nothing. And it's letting creativity into your life and finding a way to express it and saying yes to things that come up, even if it doesn't look perfect.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there's more drama schools out there than RADA, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just about, like I say, your journey and finding like where you want to go, and of course the things happen at the right time. I always like this story that Alan Rickman didn't pick up. Oh, sorry, was that there? Alan Rickman didn't pick up a script until he was 28. And of course, there's a famous one about Colonel Sanders, who's like the logo guy for KFC, didn't make his first bit of fried chicken until he was like 68 or something like that. So never ever too late. I think Jay Shetty does a good video about this. He says Mark Cuban at 25, who's a tech billionaire now, was a bartender in Dallas. Morgan Freeman didn't get his big break until he was 50. There's so many examples, but basically it's your timeline. Trust it, trust the process, and it's going to happen. Just stick with it. So yeah, no. One thing I love about your story, Maria, is that, and in fact, just going off that, actually, is that I mentioned in the intro, you've done all this work in in HR. Obviously, we won't go into telemarketing. I know you don't want to talk about that, but your journey through HR has helped you. I remember us talking last week, and then now you find yourself in this business, and you got a play on at the Barons Court Theatre, like I say, at the end of August. So tell me about like your time through HR, and because I remember us talking last week that you didn't let the job kill your creativity at all, because it absolutely has the potential to do that. Actors get stuck in jobs which they go, well, maybe acting is not going to happen now. I'm making stable money here, blah, blah, blah. But how did you sort of keep going? How did you not let it kill your creativity?
I think it probably did sometimes. If I'm honest, I think there were
not
periods,
completely anyway.
Not completely, because but that's resilience as well, isn't it? Is bouncing back and coming back from it. And I think it's important to listen to those times where you feel like that creativity is dying, because that's your nudge to go that the balance isn't right. You're not, I don't know if balance is ever actually a practical thing, but what you're doing is not, God, it's going to sound really, really dorky, but like your life's calling, you're not doing that. And I think working in HR, it's very compliance driven, it's very legal, it's very technical, but it is the business of people, and it is about how people behave and how you communicate with them and all of those things. And it can be quite draining, because people are complex. We're all really complicated individuals, and when we come to work, we don't just leave all of that behind. Some people are better at showing up at work and not bringing their lives to it. But even if you're not bringing everything with you, you're still a product of your own life, and that's going to influence the way that you interact in the workplace and the way you communicate with people and all of that. So I've learned a lot from watching people and observing people and seeing the kind of patterns that come up. But it's not very creative at all, and that has been very difficult to manage. And I think it's always finding some outlet and something to keep the creative side moving, even if you feel like I need to have some stability and I need to have a 9 to 5. How can you keep other things going? And I've done so much over the years. I did journalism for a while with a friend of mine. We had an online lifestyle magazine, and I wrote for some in-flight magazines on airplanes and that kind of thing, and poetry. And then I was teaching dance for a while, adult ballet beginners, which is just amazing, an incredible experience. And just finding things like that. And then writing really has always been there, because it's easy to do. When my little boy was in bed and work was finished for the day, I can get in front of a computer, or I can get a pen and notebook, and I can write. I don't need to go somewhere to do it. I don't need a class. I don't need a stage. You can kind of fit that in, and so that's always worked really well. And when the day job gets to me, then I know that I need to be doing more of the other thing to keep that going, because I often think about in 60 years, 80 years, 100 years, no one's going to remember who I am. And so what I do today is for me, and this is my, what's that great quote about, it's your one precious life that you have, what you're going to do with it. And as much as I have a lot of respect for the day job, I don't want it to be, well, she did a lot of good HR. I'd like it to be more than that.
Yeah, of course it will. Of course it will. So we're going to talk about your writing process in just a second. But I forgot to mention in the intro, you also do a lot of volunteer work for 2 charities, and one is called The Movement, and the other one is the Sheriff Centre. So tell me about your work with those charities.
So they are fantastic small charities, and by small I mean they have a couple of managers' positions and a few volunteers and a few members of staff, but the impact of what they do is really significant. So the movement work with women who have been in situations where they've experienced domestic violence, other kinds of traumas, and so we're going over now as well into like movement therapy and dance therapy, but that kind of movement and that expression can be really beneficial for their recovery, and in a safe way, where you're not going to go to a class and your yoga instructor is going to suddenly touch you or do a physical assist when you're not expecting it, and that can really traumatize you and bring all of that back, which is fantastic that's coming out now, I think, into the mainstream dance world and movement world. so they're brilliant. And then the Sheriff's Centre is a local community centre in my neighbourhood in sunny Brent, glamorous Brent. And they do so much. They've got a debt recovery kind of support centre. They're an incredibly inclusive organisation. They've got a cafe, which I love, a soft play, which my son has been to many times. He's too old now. But that real kind of community sense, which I think is really important, especially in London, that you can find that locally. So by volunteering with them, they get my amazing quality skills of being an amazing HR person, even if they would never have an HR director themselves in an organisation that side. And that's always meant something to me, is whatever I'm doing, can I again give back? It sounds so kind of dorky to say it, but I think it's to whom much is given, much will be required, and I feel that kind of calling to do something with what I have. And you know, I can't go and be a yoga instructor with them or something like that, but this is a way that I can help further what they do, and that's been very meaningful.
Yeah, I remember us talking last week again about you know, you say like this amazing HR person, like you say there, and how you know, but yeah, I remember us talking about how, you know, there's theatricality, because like the theatricality sort of shows that there is drama in anything that we do, you know, because being at the theatre, there's that great Oscar Wilde quote where he says, I regard the theatre as being the greatest of all art forms, because it shows a human being what it's like to be a human being. And it's a fantastic quote. But you spoke about how, like, obviously we're not going to ask for names here or specifics, but you said that there's drama in HR. You know, you said that you'd seen people sneak into the janitor's closet and do things to each other. You've seen
consensual things. Let's just point that out. Very consensual.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, with a capital C, guys, capital C.
Yeah.
But you've seen people probably storm out of stuff. You've seen people have heated arguments.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be a play about HR somewhere in your brain.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think I've started it several times and not quite moved on with it. And it's on the list. Because it is, you just see so much. You see so much drama and almost theatricality happening. And I think we play a role when we come to work. And I see people coming in and playing a role, and then you see that role slip, or you see, you know, some big dramatic explosion. And as much as people say they don't like gossip, most people like gossip. And we have a bit of a joke, some ex-colleagues and I, that working in HR, it's all professional gossip, because we have to be curious. We have to be asking questions about, well, what were they going into that cupboard to do? And were they allowed to be doing that? And who was doing this and everything? It's part of our job to be like that. So I think I'd find it quite difficult to work in a traditional 9 to 5 where I didn't know everything that was happening, because I'm so used to it. But yeah, I obviously I won't name names, but those are just some examples of things that have happened. And you know, people not being able to kind of regulate how they feel about a difficult situation at work, and throwing chairs around and storming out and swearing at people. And then of course you got CCTV to collect, and there's lots of romances in the workplace, and all. And a lot of people meet their significant other at work. So I'm not kind of saying that in itself is a terrible thing, but when there's allegations of nepotism and so and so doing this, or someone's got a secret family, and it all comes out, and it's just fascinating. And I think working in, particularly when I worked in leisure, so I worked for an operator that managed leisure centres across the UK. A lot of fun. I really had a good time there. But it's such a great setting for a play. So if anyone from there is listening, don't worry, I'm not going to write you into my play. But I think that's just fascinating, because you get this whole thing of the public face of something when you come in as a user using a leisure centre and thinking, I'm just here for a swim, and all of this drama is happening behind the management door. And I just think that's great. So yeah, there's lots of ideas. I'm working on something right now actually to submit where there is an HR person as a character that no one ever listens to, but who is right about stuff, and that comes out in the end, and there's a nice bit of vindication, although it's too late. So we might see that character pop up at some point.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting vibes of The Office or something from you there.
Oh gosh, poor Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, often I've said to people, like, yeah, it is kind of being like Toby. Hopefully I've got a bit more personality than poor Toby did, but But
Yeah,
wasn't The Office great? What a great piece of writing.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, you look back at it now. I mean, I wasn't. I sort of got into Ricky Gervais sort of like quite recently over the last few years. I haven't watched The Office like in its entirety actually,
Right.
but yeah, I know of it. You know, and it's like, but there's drama and everything, and
Hmm.
you know, who would have thought? I mean, I remember you again us talking about like what you say, what you've seen, and chairs being thrown and stuff like that.
Mm.
Who would have thought HR could have more than just people going morning, morning, take it, yes, good night, and that's it.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, you know, there's a lot more to that. Who wants coffee? Oh no, I'm fine. Do you want tea? No, I'm fine, thank you.
That's why I find it really, I love the British version, but
Mm,
I find it easier to watch the American one because the British one is just, it reminds me of, before even I worked in HR, I worked for Santander, the bank, and it
yeah,
reminds me of that. And again, I had a great time there, but I never could have kind of stayed and developed my career there because it was very much like, you know, here's your office and these are the partitions and this is where you make your coffee, and everyone dressed in their sort of very similar outfits of the blue shirts and everything like that. And
mm,
but it's just so funny, the British one, but I can't really watch it because it's quite depressing when you think of it like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
That
you know,
is reality.
yeah, I think Ricky Gervais said that actually, if you look at David Brent, he's a guy who because like the premise of The Office, if everyone hasn't seen it, it's like a fake documentary. So that's why he keeps looking at the camera like this. And it's like, and you know, and you see, and he's like, he's a guy who wants to be popular. Once you understand that, what about David Brent is,
Yeah.
when you understand that he simply wants to be liked and wants to be popular, you suddenly see like behind the facade of like,
Oh yeah.
look at this, I'm doing that. Oh, you're hard, you're doing that. All backing up for the camera, huh? But you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's but
Constantly.
he's trying to be liked this whole time,
Yeah.
and again,
Absolutely.
it's that lovely kind of well, lovely slash interesting, slightly depressing angle, which is you put on a facade at work to sort of kind of shield those inner core feelings of like, please, I just want to be liked. I just want you to like me more than anything. But he doesn't know how to do it. So he goes, so how can I do it? I'll be big and boisterous and be like, yeah, I can do this. But actually, it doesn't work. In fact, that's why a lot of people sort of move away from David, don't they? Because they don't want to know him. But yeah, it shows that there
And I
is
think he
theatricality.
doesn't, sorry to interrupt,
No,
he
go on.
doesn't his character is very jokey, like you said, and he's always making these little sides to the camera and everyone's kind of rolling their eyes at him, and he's always saying, you know, that's where the great quote, that's what she said, came from. And it's just,
Right.
he's constantly doing all of that. But there's this great scene where he learns that he might lose his job and he might be made redundant, and he goes from this jokey character, just in a moment he's got tears in his eyes and he's leaning forward and he's like, please don't take this from me. And that's also his incredible acting. Ricky Gervais's acting really comes out there. He's not just a one-dimensional character.
Mm,
But it's how much that can mean to somebody. Of he doesn't have anything else. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have this social life. Work is his social life. This is where he gets all of his kind of praise and feedback from. And if he loses that, he loses everything.
yeah.
And that's very moving to watch that scene. It's excellent.
Yeah, it feeds a lot into Afterlife as well on Netflix, as well,
Mm.
which is there's a lot of similarities between him, between David Brent, Derek, and of course, what's the name of his God, bloody hell? What's the name of his character in Afterlife? I've forgotten.
I've
Uh,
totally forgotten.
uh,
Dave. I don't know what
I
it is.
can't believe I've forgotten. Hang on, one sec. Um, oh God, my mind's just gone blank. What's his bloody name? I can't think. Hang on.
We're going to find out. We're
All
going to
right,
crack
cool. You
this.
Google it for me, Maria,
I'm
please.
going to Google it,
Yeah. What's his
and
name?
you'll just edit this really nicely and it's going to sound great.
Is it
He
Tony?
is Tony Johnson.
There you go. There you go.
Go.
Yeah, Tony. There we go. But yeah, no, but there's a lot of common things there. But I suppose the point I'm making is that, you know, we can look at the world in whatever angle, and some people think you can't write a play about that because nothing exciting happens. It's like, well, on the contrary, you know, there's plenty of things that go on behind closed doors, and you know, and you know, you look at, you know, you could write a play about, I don't know, water skiing or something if you want, just like the science of it or something. I don't know. I'm just pulling it out of the air at the moment. But yeah, so tell me about your process as a writer? Because, it's a question I ask quite a bit on here about processes, blah, blah, blah. But everyone's process is unique and very, very different. So when you sit down, do you start with the message of the play in mind, or do you just start writing and then the message comes out, or is it something else that you do?
Great question. I have what I feel are stories or messages half formed within me that need a structure around them.
Yeah.
So I have quite a lot of very strong themes and like you say, the messages and the tones and things like that. But I'm someone who responds very well to prompts. If you said, you've got 3 hours, Maria, to write whatever you want, no one's going to disturb you, crack on with it. It probably would take me a while to get going. But if someone says, you need to write me a 20-minute short play, and it needs to be for this age character, and you need to use the word bucket in there somewhere, that would make me go, oh right, yeah, this is really stressful because I've got like a deadline, I've got a thing to do here. But some ideas will come out that are the meaningful ones, and so the play might be about a bucket, but actually it's going to be a story about something that's really close to my heart that I want to tell that story of, and it's just ended up being a bit of a faucet for it, if you like. But I tend to write late at night because after the day job hasn't completely exhausted me and my son's gone to bed and it's quiet, I can get in front of the computer and just kind of go for it. And I could be there all night. Wouldn't be great for me the next day. But I find, as much as I would like to have more time to write, I find that I can be very productive because it's like, right, turn it on, let's do it, let's do this now. And process wise, there's all this great advice to just finish the first draft, just get the first draft done. And I think once I learned that really helped, because I like so many creatives, so many writers can be quite perfectionist and go over and over and over again, and that word's not right and that scene's not right and the opening's not right, and I could do scene 1 till kingdom come, but actually if I get through it all to curtain at the end, then you have something to work with. Then the real work of being a writer begins, is what so many people say, because writing is, who said that? Some great playwright said writing is moving things around on the page. I'm not sure if it's Stephen Jeffries, I don't want to misquote him, but and I think that is really true. I could write something that's pretty rubbish but get to the end and then go back and go, I know what I was trying to do and it's pretty poor right now, so let's clean it up and let's finish that. And that's the bit that actually I would like more time for. And probably I'm not very patient because I like instant gratification, like a lot of people do.
I'm the same. But I was I've told the story before, but I interviewed someone called Chloe Wade, who's a writer and actress as well. She wrote a play called As She Likes It, and it's a play about basically like Hollywood pre-Me Too and stuff, and how we've come a long way, but still there's more to do. But, she worked with a dramaturg called Morgan Lloyd Malcolm, who's written a lot of stuff, and she's done a fantastic play, now film, called The Nest, with Natalie Duma in it, and she's incredible. Highly recommend that, by the way. But she said her first draft was what she called a vomit draft. So she literally got it all out on the page, one way or another, just write. Don't worry about edit. Don't write and edit at the same time, because then you'll just drive yourself crazy. But you just get it all out on the page, and then you go back through it and go, okay, that bit can go, okay, that bit's nice, we'll expand that. Was that part of your sort of early? Is that part of sort of your early process as a writer? Yeah,
definitely. And not being afraid to edit, and not being afraid to like cut stuff and change things. And sometimes when we get something down, there's equally that feeling of like, oh, I worked really hard on that. I need to keep it. But actually, writing is as much what you leave out as what you put in. And so deciding what kind of goes, as well as what you need to do with it and change it and edit it. I completely agree with that approach. That's how I do it. I did write something about 6 weeks ago, very quickly, which I completely forgot about, and then realized the deadline was coming up, went back and was like, oh, I need to work on this, opened it, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, did I write this? And it was totally not like the style that I would normally write. but I guess sometimes that does happen, where sometimes you just have everything in the right place, all the stars have aligned, and you can create something that's pretty much finished and you're happy with it. I know when is writing finished is a whole other conversation that I don't know the answer to, but that was an instance of where I was just like, I don't really remember how I came to this. But I think when you've got sort of your life themes that you want to bring out in your writing, that's not difficult to come out when you're in a place where you've got a structure to put them into. And I found myself, my play, Maybe You Should Know, is about mothers and parents and things like that. And I found myself at that time writing a lot of short pieces about mothers. It's like, I need to write about something else. I must, I need to get this out of my system and write about something else. But that was just what was coming up for me and coming out in my writing without really giving it much thought.
Yeah. I suppose we always write from a place of truth and a place that of a subject matter that we know of, or something that we're very familiar with, And I think probably I remember reading up about I can't remember where I read this, but David Hare, who's a brilliant playwright, he's been writing plays for years, and he's got this fantastic one called Skylight, which I know I've talked about on here before. And he said that, and it's two characters, and one of them has this big kind of business mind, when he's lent me money at 11%, I do this jumping 30-fold and stuff like that. But he told a story that he heard, that wasn't me, he heard all that through a friend of his at the time, and he's the one who fed all this information and stuff. So there's a common interest, but you'll help each other to try and get all the details down and stuff, but still it's David's idea. But he got that from friends. I think I'm right in saying that, David. If I got that wrong, I do apologize. But yeah, no. But it's an interesting how we write from a place of truth, and I think that's a good segue on to your play actually as well, which you just mentioned. Maybe You Should Know. That's what it's called. So obviously we won't go into too much detail today because I know it's a brand new piece, and then we won't go into too much. We don't want to spoil anything because we want people to come and see it. But we would like to address like the spine of the play and what people can expect. So so as far as my understanding is, the message is about a third culture product of Ukraine. It was a guy called Daniel and Julie, which is an older woman craving an absent son. So it's going off that again. So how did this play come about, do you think?
It's a very non-glamorous start to writing this play, but a genuine one. And I think it shows how inspiration, just what we were talking about, when you kind of have a prompt, it can open the floodgates for all that meaningful stuff to come out. So I had last year at the end of the summer, I think maybe July, August, gone through one of those stages of, I'm just really fed up with the way my life is. I'm not being creative enough. I'm not doing creative things. I went onto City Academy's website and was like, what is the next writing class starting? I'm going to do it. And the next one the following day was a playwriting course with Marcelo dos Santos for about 6-8 weeks, something like that. He was resident writer at the Royal Court and various things like that, written some great plays. And he did an exercise with us, I think in like the second or the third class, where he played 2 pieces of music and said, right, listen to this music and write 2 characters. And I did. And the characters of Julie and Daniel, who are in the play, showed up. And he's like, right, now your homework is to put them in a scene together. And I was like, what? They are totally different characters. They don't make any sense. They would never meet in real life. But I went away and did a scene. And that's where this play came from. So while the themes are, it's about the third culture, kind of what happens when you're not growing up in a culture that's your own and you've had to move to a different country for various reasons, and it's about mothers and parenting and all that kind of stuff. I had these 2 characters that I had to fit together, and that just worked, because when else would they meet? And I love that in plays and stories, when you get 2 people that shouldn't interact and shouldn't meet and they do, and it can be very funny. It's quite funny parts of the play. I think people are surprised when they come and then they laugh. They're kind of looking at each other in the rehearsed reads going, should I be laughing? It's very serious, this play. But it's meant to be funny. You can laugh. And then it also has these quite deep, serious themes running through it. It's set against the Homes for Ukraine scheme and that's how they've come to meet and to know each other. And it's about what happens next. How does that relationship go, where one person is without their grown-up son and the other person is without their mother, and they're kind of in the pseudo parenting relationship in a home, but it's not a home and they're not parents, and what does that bring out of them?
Yeah. And so we talked about, you said third culture product of Ukraine. What does that mean to be a third culture product?
That third culture piece is who are you? And the character of Daniel is, you know, his family's from the Ukraine originally, but he didn't grow up there, and he's not living there, but he's not English, but he's not. So who is he? What culture do you have? Where is your identity? And that's another theme of the play, is what is someone's identity? And we know that Ukraine is going through an awful lot over the past few years in particular. And how do you carry that burden with you when you don't identify with it as your home country, but people see you as part of it? And I can relate a lot to that, maybe not so much from like a geographical passport point of view, but in the way that I was brought up. And I don't know if we covered this. If I was I was homeschooled. I didn't go to mainstream school, and so it's a very interesting sort of dynamic of, I grew up in a place, but I didn't really, because I didn't have the same experiences as everybody else going to school and having that kind of childhood experience, and we moved around a lot. But I'm not really part of my parents' culture either, because I didn't grow up where they grew up and that kind of thing. So you have this third culture, which is, you know, it can raise a lot of questions about identity and where you belong and what community is.
Yeah. And I feel like another thing that jumped out at me from our talk last week in preparation for today was a word that sort of jumps out right now actually is the word belonging. You know, where do I oh, I can hear myself feedback. There we go. But yeah, it's like, where do I belong? What happens to me right now? Where do I fit in and stuff? And I think that's a question that we've all ask ourselves, like right from the word go, when we're able to start thinking for ourselves and think about stuff. And you know, we'll discuss a few more elements of the play in just a second. But was that part of it? Asking yourself, like, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Was that part of it as well?
Absolutely. And that's something that has always been there for me, is where do I belong? What a great question. And it's so deep, so big. And even Nicole Scherzinger the other day, when she won her Tony Best Actress for Sunset Boulevard, she said in her acceptance speech, she's like, I never felt like I belonged when I was growing up, and I finally belong. And you look at someone like that and you're like, what? Like, really? You've had this incredible career, and like, you're so confident and you're so attractive and you have all this and that, and you had all, you know, you were the star of the Pussycat Dolls and all this. And but I think that feeling was genuine, and I can relate to that. And I think we can look at other people and think, oh, you belong, you're normal, you're part of this whole thing. I'm the odd one out, I'm the one that feels like that. When actually, I think if we opened up a bit more, like you said, we probably have all experienced that at one part or another in our lives. And it's always been a very strong feeling for me, not going through mainstream school. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. I moved around a lot when I was older. And even those life experiences, like dropping out of drama school and not having that experience that everyone else had of finishing it, you feel like you don't belong. And with writing as well, I feel like it less. I don't know if that just comes with age, but you know, deserve to have that. Am I talented enough? Am I on par with everybody else that I'm in this world with and that I'm working with? Do I have the same things to bring? And I think that is a really key question, that one of the questions that theatre can pose. And I think what you were mentioning earlier about, you know, workplaces that can feel quite boring or like nothing's happening, but actually people that get up and go to work and come home and have their lives and everything like that to them is everything, and everything's happening within that sphere, all the drama, all the ups and downs, all the tragedies, all the comedy, all the great moments. And when people come to theatre, or they watch a film or they read a book and they see it resonates with them, they see their lives in that. I'm not saying like we should just put a camera in an office and film it, because that would probably be quite boring. You have to have some level of conflict and drama. But we recognize things. And I know for me, when I go watch a play or see a great scene in a film and I'm moved by it, it's usually because I recognize the truth in that of my own experiences. That's the thing that makes me go like that. And it's sometimes it's empathy for other people, but a lot of times it's touched a nerve inside because I can relate.
Yeah. And I think that's what you want from a theatre experience as well. You want to walk out of it going, I've gained something from this, or like it makes you think about stuff. It's like, oh yeah, something like that happened to me, and obviously that's when you know when it's landed, and you've got like a really good, just fit on things that you're resonating with people, which I think is what we're here to do. We're here to connect with other people. I don't, people come to the theatre. I don't know who you are. You don't know me. I'm going to tell you a story, and you might, hopefully, I'll help you in some way. Or help you think about it. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. So I think again, going off there, you did a brilliant interview actually for the Wigan Today newspaper, slightly earlier this year, and you talked about how and they've got a direct quote from here which I wanted to get in today, talking about your play. Maybe you should know. You say, "We have never, as a current culture, talked more about." Recognizing generational trauma and our own behavior. What is the balance between confronting poor parents and having compassion for their emotional past? So how do we do that? How do we have compassion? I'm going to ask your own question back to you.
Oh, thank you for that. But it's a journey. I do think about this a lot, and maybe it's unfair that I've asked a question I can't answer myself. But I think it's finding a way to do that, because you can talk about forgiveness. And I think people that have maybe not had a great childhood are often told you need to forgive and you need to move on from it. And forgiveness is really hard. Forgiveness is very difficult. And also, what does it really mean? Does it mean you forget? Does it mean you say, I forgive you, but I want nothing more to do with you? Like, what does that actually mean? And I think what I found works better for me and is less complex is having that sense of compassion of, this did not go the way that I would have wanted it to, and I've been impacted by that, but I have compassion for you as a person, because you were also a child once and you were brought up a certain way and you've taken all that with you into your parenting, and I can extend some compassion towards you and find a way to have some space between us and live with it. I saw this great quote. It sounds like I'm on Instagram all the time. I do apologize. I saw this great quote on Instagram which said, it said, something like you fall in love with somebody and then you end up having a relationship with their childhood for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh God,
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's true. And I really think it is true. Hopefully we can also do work on ourselves, so we're not just damaged inner children walking around all the time throwing strops.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
I feel like you're talking from experience. We might have to continue this conversation down the pub.
Definitely.
I think it's so true. And I think part of I don't know if resolving feels fair, but resolving things from your childhood with compassion, from my experience, and I can only speak from my experience. I don't ever want to feel like I'm telling somebody this is what you should do to just get over it or anything like that. But it's having compassion where it's warranted. And I suppose the conflict is where you feel it isn't warranted, that someone's made a choice to do something or behave in a certain way. And parenting affects us so deeply in very long lasting ways. And so by asking that question, it's, someone came out of a rehearsed read last month and said, I said, how did you find the play? Do you have any feedback, any thoughts? And they said, I need to go home and call my mum. And that was enough for me, was just that sense of like, it's touched something in him where he goes, I've got things I need to say. And I don't know what they were. I got the sense that it was quite, it was quite a compassionate call. I didn't get the feeling he was going to go home and start having a go at some poor woman. But that's, you never know. That's the question. You never know. Hopefully hopefully not. Hopefully she doesn't hear this and go, "It's you caused that."
You caused that.
But yeah. I think that meant a lot because he could see himself in that story and that play, and he took that away with him and had that phone call. So
yeah, I get an image of him turning up the next day, and you go, "So what did you talk about last night? What did you talk about with your mum?" Like, none of your business. Leave me alone.
Yeah, the moment's passed.
The moment's passed. I'm better now. But okay, I've got another thing I want to ask you about, because we're touching on some deep stuff today, actually.
Yeah,
which is really good. I think another thing, again, this is related to the play. Like I say, we can't go into the details of it because we want people to see it. So this is all subjects related to what's written in the play, guys. So we've got a lot of very good stuff. There is comedy as well. Don't worry, we'll make you laugh. I have the writer's reassurance right in front of me right now.
I laugh at it. So there you go.
There you go. But so we're talking about. It also touches on. I think you mentioned last time. I've got it written down here. It's sort of like your own experience as a mother yourself writing the play as well. And you said that one of the biggest heartbreaks as a mum is actually one of the slowest. You said the slowest heartbreak in your whole life is helping them survive without you or when you're not there. And yeah, so I can't explain. Obviously, I'm not a parent right now, but I can't imagine that feeling of that. I never heard that before. It's like preparing them for when you're not around. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's when you've done your job properly as well.
Yeah.
So I read, as you say, there are light-hearted moments in the play, but this is quite a sad little story. But there was this I read about a woman who had terminal cancer, and she had a young child, and she made the choice over the last sort of 3 months of her life to have that child spend more time with her father than with her, so that the child would be actually more used to having this primary carer that wasn't the mother and would miss her less when she was gone. And that's just what a selfless act as a mother, to say, I'm going to give up my time with my child, the thing that I love most in the world, so they will have a better experience when I'm gone. And that's a really extreme example. But I think that's what we're doing. It's those small bits of independence of, you can tie your own shoelace. No, you can walk. You don't need me to carry you. No, you can get that cup of water yourself. And as a parent myself, I get a lot of pleasure out of helping my child and doing things for him and making him comfortable. But I know that that's not going to have the long-term effect that I want, which is he needs to do all of this for himself eventually. And then it becomes bigger things: going to school by yourself. I'm not going to be there. Crossing the road by yourself. Going and having a social life that I've got no idea what you're doing. And eventually having a job, driving in the night, maybe after you've had a drink, which you shouldn't be doing. Like all of those things that you let go of them, and they need to be able to have the wisdom to make good choices in those situations, because you won't be there to shout at them and say, don't do this. Also, they probably won't listen to you at that age anyway. But seeing that happen can be it's the best feeling, and it's heartbreaking too, because hopefully my son won't listen to this, but you want them to stay a baby, and you want them to kind of stay with you, and you get a lot from that. And of course, there's another great quote that I probably read somewhere online, which was that when your children are small, you exist as a parent in their memories. So like when I think back to my parents, when I was little, when I spent most time with them, that those memories are so strong. And now that I'm in that time myself, I'm kind of like just so busy and rushing around and trying to do everything and taking care of him and working and writing and rehearsing and everything that I'm trying to do for myself, and drinking enough water and staying sane, as they say. And actually who I am is the memory that he's going to take with him for the next 60, 70, 80 years. And that's quite sobering as well.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. You get, do you know what? I can see some comedian just jumping on that bandwagon there and just going, well, make sure you don't fuck it up then. It's like, well, I'm joking. Now, of course, it's a big thing, this, like I say, I'm not a parent right now, but it's just like, you hear about kids misbehaving, it's a tough job, it's not perfect, blah, 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 blah. But then again, it's the euphoria that you have, that's your, it's your life force there. That's a bit of you right in front of you. And just, yeah, again, I can't go into too much detail because I haven't had that experience, but it's, yeah, but yeah, but when you said that, it was like I never thought about parenting or having a relationship with someone significant in that way. It's
Mm.
and
I think I think you, as a kid, I don't know if you can relate to this, but you think parents are have achieved something in life that qualifies them to be a parent. And then you become a parent and you're like, no, I'm still the same person I was.
yeah,
I'm still the same person who, has bad habits and isn't disciplined in this area and obsesses about this. And so we have such high expectations of our parents just automatically as children. We're like, no, you need to be fair and you need to give me what I need right now. And you need to be this and you need to be that. And then you become a parent and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't go to parenting school. I don't know how to do this thing and be this person. And then of course the worst thing is where you open your mouth and your mum comes out and you're like, oh my god, I said what my mum said. And it's just it's funny. but we have those expectations, and in reality we're just trying our best. Hopefully those are the good ones. We're trying our best.
And so do you remember that episode of I'm going to sound like a millennial myself because I am one, but
lean into it.
I think you said, was it yourself who said, I can't remember who said this, but there's a great episode of Friends. Do you remember the ones where you've seen Friends, right?
Oh, you'll mention any episode, I'll be right there with you. Go for
it. the episode where Rachel and Joey go on a boat. And she's shouting instructions at him, and at first she's really calm, and then she goes no, and then she gets angrier and angrier, and Joey's like, well, why are you shouting at me? Why are you shouting at me? And then afterwards, when it's all calmed down, I think he says like, oh, you were so mean to me. What's going on? And she went, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Look, when my dad took me out on this boat, he would scream and rant and rave at me, and simply because just to do the job right. But obviously there are ways of doing it. And I guess if you're on a boat, then it's not exactly life and death, but you want to stay on the surface. You don't want to give it in the water. But then at the end of that, they're parked, and he said, the boat is parked in the dock or sat in the dock, wherever it is. And then Joey gives Rachel a big sandwich, a pastrami sandwich, and then at one point she keeps dropping ingredients on the floor or something, and Joey screams like, she goes, you're wasting good pastrami. And he goes, oh my god, I'm my father.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's true.
Yeah, it's like, we need to
it's true. And Rachel says something really funny. She says, she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I was trying so hard not to be my mom, I didn't realize I ended up being my dad. It's like you can also swing too far one way. And then for all my introspection and how serious all of this is, I think also you just need to relax, which anything that has the word just in it is like, come on, how easy is that? But if we can relax and be happy in who we are as people, our children will be much happier as well. Exactly. So that's why this kind of thing is, pursuing that creativity in my life as well, and my ambitions with that, alongside a very demanding job and other things that I do. It's really important for me to model that to my son as well, that your mum had her own life and her own dreams and her own disappointments and her own things, and she still got up and kept going. Like, it's not all smooth sailing, and that's an important lesson to pass on, and I'd like him to do that. I hope he doesn't go into HR, definitely. I don't know if he's
that, son. Never do that. Never do that.
It's not worth it. But I don't think he's particularly creative. But I hope that he has the courage and the guts to go, well, what am I going to do with this life that I have, and figure something out. Yeah,
no, for sure. And I think it's funny because some parents go, it's like, any advice on parenting, and as a joke they go, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
They do it. No, but they love it, really. Of course they do. Funny enough, I was speaking to someone this morning about it, and they've been married for like over 40 years, him and his wife, and I said, oh cool, have you got kids? He was like, no, I haven't. I just thought, she said, and I quote, we've lived a life of bliss. And I was like, well, I said, no, is that the truth? Of course he was joking. But no, he said, I said, was it just out of choice? And he said, no, just our careers just got too much. We had so much to do, and we thought if we had a child, it would just make it too difficult. So they're not alone. There's many couples out there who decide not to have children, but But you know, it's I suppose it's just different between each couple, isn't it? You know, I know some couples who've got, you know, you said you're one of eight, did you say?
One of nine.
One of,
So yeah,
one of
I have
nine.
8 siblings. I'm one of 9. Yeah.
Gosh, what was it like growing up in that household?
Oh my goodness. Well, what's also really funny is there's 2 years broadly between each of us. So the younger children had a totally different experience to the older ones. So you could ask all 9 of us about our experiences and you'd probably get a different answer because we grew up in the same family, but it was a different family. It was a different, you know, the youngest will always be the youngest. I don't remember being the youngest. I was always one of the oldest. So we've had different experiences. It was chaos, absolute chaos.
I mean,
A lot of bunk beds. And we grew up on a council estate in Wigan, in sunny Wigan, in glamorous Lancashire, and we really stood out. We had this white, it was a minibus. It was a little, I don't know how many seats it was, and we'd go out in it and people would know who we are because they were like, oh, it's that Speight family again with all those kids. And I remember a couple of times we stopped, I don't know, like near the supermarket or something, and little old ladies would try and get on. They thought we were the bus or something, and it was this really, no, we're not a bus. But I remember being embarrassed a lot as a kid because kids, when you're different, it can be really hard when you're a child. Now I can laugh about it, but I remember just like, why have we got so many children? Why is there always a baby crying? Why are we always wearing the same clothes? Why do I have to have my sister's hand-me-downs? Like it was just a lot to deal with. Builds character, apparently. So my character must be pretty darn good.
absolutely.
But people have said to me, you know, oh, you're going to have 9 children, and I'm like, I'm happy with my one. I'm good, thank you.
No, one's enough.
So I think that also affects, you know, what you're saying about it depends on the couple and the person, and especially as a woman and a feminist woman and having the choice to do that is one thing that we all have is a mother. Even if we haven't chosen to have children, and even if someone's grown up without their mother or they don't have a good relationship, even the absence of that has impacted us in a way. And I totally understand why people choose not to have children. I love it. I love kids. I think they're great. And even though my son is in secondary school now, if I could stay at home all day with him, I wouldn't be very healthy. So it's probably a good thing I can't, but I like it.
It shows you've got a good relationship though, which is good, you know, and you know, which at the end of the day, what we talked a lot about today is what you want to have them to see, to have a good vision of you, you know, going forward, whether you're here or whether you're not. And if you've done that, then it's job well done. In fact, it's more than just saying that job well done. It's like wow, that's huge. Yeah, but I get an image of yourself and your family going through your minibus through the town centre, and then you stop at a traffic light, and then someone tries to knock on the window and go, "Single to the town centre, please, love." And you're like, no, it's just all family.
Oh, yeah.
Family, all 10 of you.
Oh, yeah, they would say, "Are you at school?" No, we're just a family.
Yeah.
I've got all those questions. Have you got the same parents? Yes. Did your parents not have a TV when you were growing up? No, actually they didn't. Are you Catholics? No, but yeah, and it's just you get all those questions. My particular favorite was you know, you got almost enough for a football team.
Wow.
So but I didn't know anything different. That's the thing, you know, like when you're growing up in that environment, that's everything.
Yeah. Just very quickly, to go back to the play just for 1 second. Obviously, if this is a spoiler, then feel free not to
go ahead.
Talk about this. But is there an element of the play which is just going off what you said there about things you said that you didn't know any different at the time? Is there an element of looking back in retrospect, where any of these two characters look back and think, actually, that we thought it was okay at the time, but actually that wasn't good at all. That was actually really, really bad. Is there any kind of retrospective views on childhood in your work, particularly in this play?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to raise, that what we think is normal might not be, which is quite broad, but I think everyone can kind of understand what that means. We've all been in situations like maybe your school did a certain thing, or your workplace did it a certain way, or your parents parented in a certain way, and it was only when you got older that you were like, oh, that wasn't particularly right. You mentioned that newspaper article that I did recently with the Wigan Today, and I sent it to my dad to read, and I didn't hear back from him for about a week, and I was there like, oh, I thought this was a really good thing, and then I didn't realize that he thought I'd written a play about my childhood, and I was like, oh no, it's not about you. So we sorted that out, but of course it's been influenced by that, because it's such an important relationship and it's such an important part of life. And I do think we'll probably all look back and go, well, my parents made choices that I'm not going to do with my kids, and I think that's okay, and I think that's normal, or that still I think, should I say that actually I think my parents should have sent us to school instead of homeschooling us, and the choice they made with that, which has had a long lasting impact on me. But you can, there's a difference between recognizing it, isn't there, and then what you're going to do with that recognition.
Yeah.
And I don't think dwelling on things and stewing on things is you can't change the past.
No.
So I prefer to, that's an example of being homeschooled, to talk about it. I told someone the other day that I'd been homeschooled, and they said, I thought that was illegal. And I was like, no, like it's not. Yeah, it's not. We weren't breaking the law. And having a conversation around that, and it makes you memorable. I'll say that. I'm never at a shortage of when you're in a party or some corporate ice-breaking session when someone says, tell us something interesting about yourself. All I need to say is the number of siblings I've got, and I'm away. Yeah. So it's nice and easy.
It's a good icebreaker.
So I think, good icebreaker.
Yes. I've got 9 siblings. What? And then people will be like, tell me everything. No, but oh man, that's crazy. No, I think you're right. So if we look back on things, and I think stuff happened in the past. I mean, as I imagine, like all of us would be like, if we could go back and change maybe 1 or 2 things, and we'd all love to do that. But ultimately, one thing I've learned is that just accept the past for what it is and just thank it, because it got you to where you are right now. And it's a bit of a cliche, another Instagram kind of quote, really. But
we love it.
I do. But it's absolutely true. It got you to where you are right now, and I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Even if you look back and think, why the fuck did I do that? Or why did I think that was okay? But maybe it was because you realize that's what you don't give to your kids, or you don't give to yourself, or your own life, or whatever it is. It's there to give you something or to take something away from you. And God, we've touched on some heavy topics today.
I can make a few jokes if you want.
Yeah, please.
Want to lighten the mood.
Yeah, please do. Do you have any jokes about? I nearly said jokes about HR, but I know you don't want to talk about that. But what sort of?
They're not jokes. That's very serious.
Very serious. Go on. Do you have any amusing anecdotes while I think about the next question?
Oh, I've got. This is not HR related, but I sometimes I get really arty-farty about, the universe is telling me something. I'm not like that on a normal day, but every now and then it kind of pops out. And I think after I'd stopped acting, so after I'd left drama school and I'd done a bit of acting by myself for a while, I had an agent and I did a few short films and things like that. And I'd stopped, and I was out somewhere meeting, I think I was out with my son, taking him to a theatre, and he'd already gone in ahead with his dad, and I'd come in afterwards, and I was in the foyer, and this woman with a clipboard came up to me, and she goes, oh, is it Maria? And I was like, my God, yes, it is. And she's like, oh, great, fantastic. And the auditions are happening just over there. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not, what? Have I stepped into an alternate universe? And there was this moment where wouldn't it have been great if I'd gone, yes, that's me. I'm here for the audition, and just walked in and done it. And it wasn't. And then this woman ran in behind me and she's like, I'm Maria, sorry, I'm late. And it was a bit of a, not a sliding doors moment, but it was that kind of thing of like, this is another reality that I could have. And I think even just those few seconds made me think, like, this is the world that I want to be in. And how funny, how coincidental that she just went, oh, is it Maria? And it really was. But it was just the wrong one. It was the wrong life.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Sliding doors. Yeah. Sliding doors moment. I always love that one. So, but in terms of like the practicality of like the play and stuff, obviously, how's it all been going? How have you found the rehearsal process, the casting, the working with the director, who's also my brother, and everything? How have you found it all?
Well, of course, the director's absolutely rubbish, but we won't tell him that.
Oh, no, don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
No, he's great. And I've been really lucky. I think we've all been lucky that we've been the same small creative team for quite a long time. So when I wrote the play, I wanted to get a couple of the scenes scratched. So I sent it off to Barons Court Theatre, who are great for new writers, really supportive of have their Sunday fix every month where you can do a scratch rehearsed read. I think it was just names in a hat, and so I got paired with Adam as director, and Aidan Parsons, who plays Daniel, and we had another actor playing the role of Julie. And it was the first time I'd seen my work even partially staged like that, and it was just an amazing experience. And even with the hours rehearsal that they had, the kind of the warmth and care that the team put into it was incredible. And we got some really great feedback that night. And it's not, it isn't just the writing, it's also the acting that was put into it, what Adam was able to do in such a short period of time with the script as director. And so we stayed in touch, and we wanted to take it forward. I think I was like, well, I want to do more with my play, and you're great people to do it. Yeah. And so we thought we would put it forward at the Cockpit Theatre for a rehearsed read of the whole piece. So every month they do something called New Stuff. They have a program called New Stuff where you can take a longer piece in or a short play and do it in front of an audience. So Aidan stayed with us, Adam stayed with us, and we couldn't have the original Julie, but I have a very close friend, Nadia Bond, who I went to the Bridge Drama School with, and she hadn't acted for a long time because she has a young family, and it's very difficult, as you're aware, to keep that kind of creative freelance life going when you've got kids that need picking up from school and dropping off at school and bills that need to be paid. So she has a great creative career doing other things. And I said, would you come out of acting retirement to be my Julie? And lucky for us, she said yes, because she's an amazing actor, and I think she's at that stage where she's kind of ready to start looking at that again, and this was a really nice opportunity for her. So we did the rehearsed read at the Cockpit, which was just incredible to see the whole thing on its feet. They were script in hand, but they really put a lot of work into it. And then I asked them afterwards, would you like to do the Fringe if we could get in at the Fringe? And they said yes. I didn't give them much choice, I just sort of said, well, we're doing this now. Yeah. And that's where we are now. So that team has been really close for quite a while. And I think that's really helped things run smoothly. And it's a lot of work. And I've been working with Adam as director for me to let go a bit more, which I think you need to do as a writer. And Aidan was... our actor for Daniel said something really nice. He's in an interview, he said that it's been great to have the writer around and be involved, and he's never kind of experienced that. And I was like, that's a nice way of putting that. I'm just over involved and pushy. So thank you for that. But that was great to develop the script, because they would say, this is how my character feels. They know the characters almost better than I know them now, because they've originated them, they created them, and I really value what they say. That line just doesn't feel right, or that word, I don't think Julie would say that, and I find that really valuable. So we've developed it together. And there did come a point where I said, we were booking rehearsals, and they said, well, Maria doesn't need to be there anymore, because getting 4 diaries together with 3 children between us and all of that kind of stuff can be quite a lot. And they were right, I don't need to be there after a certain point. So I sort of had to cut that umbilical cord and say, right, Adam, you're in charge, which he of course has loved. But he keeps me up to date. We have a group chat, and we have lengthy voice notes where we talk about where the script is. So it is getting there. They share where they're at. I've got every faith they're doing a brilliant job, and I'm trying to be worried with things like selling tickets and publicising the play, and at some point we are going to have to think about how do we get a table and chairs over to the theatre when none of us have a car. So that's probably going to fall to me. So we're finding our roles, and it's I'm really excited, and I just hope that it also gives them what they need. I'm getting a lot out of it as a writer, but I hope for them as performers and as a director, they're getting a lot out of it as well.
For sure, definitely. And so tickets, and like I said earlier, tickets are now on sale, and the performance at the Barons Court Theatre is on a Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd of August. So tickets are on sale right now.
Sunday the 24th, Oliver.
Is it the 24th as well?
Yeah, we have a break in between. We have opening night and closing night. Those are our 2 nights.
Really? It says on the website it's Friday and Saturday, or have I got that wrong?
Well, I will have to call up the website and have words with them.
Okay, right. So which nights do you want again? So Saturday and Sunday?
It's Friday and Saturday. So Friday the 22nd and Sunday the 24th.
24th. Okay, there we go. So let me rephrase. Friday the 22nd of August and Sunday the 24th of August. Yeah, tickets on sale right now. I'll put a link down below, guys, so you can go get your tickets. And we'll go see a new play with some new writing and get the movement set up, and then we'll get this. So West End bound, do you think?
Adam and I often talk about when the West End transfer is going to happen, so we will keep you posted. I think nice. I've talked about this is a really nice debut of the whole play, but whether we develop that into a full length play, because there's such a lot in there, and I think it's easy. We could talk about the play all day because there's so many different things happening in there, and actually does it deserve a bit more space? That is next to be discussed, not confirmed yet, but I might be really fed up of talking about mothers and parenting by the end of this year and never want to look at it again.
Yeah, so. No, I'll never look at my son the same way. But yeah. But we've talked about a lot of stuff already, like that's related to mothers and sons, generational trauma and stuff like that. So there's a lot of, and Ukraine's in there as well and everything. So it mixes common human emotions with current events, and it looks like there's a lot to go through here, and you've got a really good sounds like you've got a very interesting piece on your hands, and one that I look forward to seeing, and I'm sure many others will come see it as well. So we've talked about some really good stuff. So how does it? So right now, obviously, without going into too much detail, how do you feel the play is now? Do you think it's done, or do you think? I know you said you've got to rework it and stuff, but do you feel like for right now, do you think it's done or in a really good place? How do you feel about it right now?
It's so difficult. When is a play done? When is a play done? I know we were saying the other day. There's I was at Dorchester Arts for a script writing festival at the beginning of May, and I was talking to Mark Tattersall, who's the artistic director there, and the current production that was on was Potlicker by Ed Viney, and he said that since the run started, the ending has changed. And I sort of sat there looking at him going, no, but aren't plays supposed to be finished at some point, Mark? And he's like, yeah, but when they got it on like properly on, and they obviously, did a lot of R&D with it, the ending, the audience response and everything, they just felt that the ending needed to change. Now that's really discouraged me, because now I think, oh my God, even when my play is like out there, it's not finished. And I think I don't know if you just reach a point where you're bored enough with your play where you just think, oh no, now it's finished. Otherwise it won't ever be.
Enough now, please.
Now I want to write something else, because I think it's in good shape. I'm very proud of it, and I think it's a nice piece of entertainment as well. I think you mentioned there's a lot in there, but people's lives are complex. Like a lot of that stuff you just accept as context to your story, so it's very similar to that. But there are parts of it that I look at it and I go, oh, if the actors hadn't already learned all of the lines, I might start changing that bit, but we're kind of running out of time now, kind of thing. So I don't know if you ever reach a point where you're 100% happy and you don't, and you grow as an artist and you grow as a person. And I started writing the play, about a year ago. So of course things have changed since then. But I think it needs resting after this for a bit, and then we'll talk about that full length one. Although the cast have already had some ideas and had some conversations with certain people at certain theatres, so that sounds, you don't want to lose momentum. So, you know, Adam, the director, wants to get dressed up in a suit and go and have some meetings. So we might do that just to keep him happy, you know.
Oh yeah. Just keep him at bay, just let him do it.
You've got to keep the talent happy is something that we all know about theatre.
Just let them do their own thing. Behind their back, you're going, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing here.
No, they are fantastic.
I'm just kidding. But honestly, I feel like there's so much more we could go into, Maria, but I think that's a really good place to sort of finish, really. I think we've covered so many bases, and, you know, I think this play's got a really good foundation to go off on. So I think everyone should, if you're stuck with something to do over the time of the Camden Fringe, guys, and you're in the Barons Court area of Kensington, get your tickets now, get yourself down there on the 22nd and 24th of August, even though the website's lying to me, but it's all good there. I just got two more things left for you, Maria. As final two questions for every guest. So the first one is, what would you say was a bit of advice that you wish you heard when you were starting out?
Gosh, easy questions. Thank you so much for that. A bit of advice. I was terrible at taking advice. I still am. So it's hard to think of something. I think find a way to let that creativity in, and don't just feel like it's an all or nothing situation. That's probably, you know, I trained in ballet when I was younger. My thing was I wanted to be a ballet dancer, and that is quite all or nothing. Like, unless you're going to put everything into it, it's not really going to work. So I think that had stayed with me throughout life, and it's, you know, I never would have thought that I would have my career in HR and then writing plays alongside that and making it happen, and going to theatres and seeing my work and hearing it and having conversations with people like yourself. And if I had been in the mindset, well, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to pursue it, I'm not going to show up to that writing class, or I'm not going to enter it for that scratch night, or I'm not going to put it in at the Fringe, or whatever it is, then I wouldn't have had access to all of this.
Sure.
And that would, you know, that would be quite sad, because how much creativity is in people that they don't let out because they don't think it's going to be perfect, or they don't think they can go all the way, or they can't, you know. I wanted to be the world's youngest published author when I was about 4 years old, and that didn't happen. But does that mean that I should never write? Does that mean, you know, like I shouldn't have part of that? So that would be my advice, is just find small ways of letting it in and say yes. I could easily say no to things. I could say, no, I don't feel like it's ready to be put on at the Fringe. No, I'm too scared that we're not going to sell all the tickets and I'll be responsible for that. You know, like it's easy to say no, but just say yes and see what happens.
Yeah. That spark of creation or something like that, you know, it starts at that age. I want a best-selling author. There's a writer bug there. I want to be on the stage. There's an actor bug there. You know, it's like the little things that start you off. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And finally today, what would you say has been an experience or experiences that you've had in your career up to now, acting and HR, if you want, just that you've had up to now that you'll never, ever forget?
Oh, gosh. So this is perhaps a small thing, and maybe not a grand thing that you were hoping for, but
no, go for it.
I am a writer with the Director's Cut Theatre, which is run by the fabulous Heather Ward, who is a dramaturg and a director, and she was an actor as well, and an amazing poetry writer. And she runs the Writers' Club, the Actors' Club, and the Directors' Club. And it's all part of the Directors' Cut Theatre, which you probably have heard of. And it's a real, I hate the word community sometimes, but in this case, it is 100% genuine. It is a real community. And we do the writing that gets handed to the directors, who then work on it with the writers, and it goes round in circles, and we do all kinds of great stuff together. And I'd seen this thing on and off over years, and I thought, yeah, but I'm not like a real writer. You know, I have a day job that's really intense, and yeah, I write, but I'm not like these guys. Like, I don't make my living off it. And I didn't apply for ages and ages and ages. And then I thought, oh, why not just give it a go? And I sent my pieces in, and a few days later I got the response, yeah, you can come along. And I think I think there's this moment where I just went, a lot of these barriers are mine. You know, someone else has looked at my writing and gone, looks good to me. and I'm the one going, no, they can tell that I didn't go to school, and they can tell that I've got 8 siblings and I'm from such a weird family, and they can tell all of these things and all of those self-beliefs that hold you back. And I know that's quite a small thing, but being able to go to that environment and people just saying, yeah, write me something, please. And then I'm going to take what you've written and I'm going to direct it and I'm going to act it, and not question it and not critique and go, are you sure you're really a writer? Do you think you really should be writing? Like, just that kind of acceptance and let's work with it has really given me so much confidence in myself and what I do. So I know that's quite a small thing, but
yeah, it doesn't matter.
But I think so much is about just doing the work, producing something, and getting out of our own heads, getting away from, oh, I might be embarrassed, you know. And so if anything is going to affect us to be more bold with what we're doing, then I think that's pretty memorable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, just having the confidence just to give it a go in the first place, you know, present, you know, we talk about an actor walking on stage as an incredibly vulnerable act. I know someone who says singing isn't a vulnerable act, and it is, you know, but to present your work, your words to another person to get your message out, which you feel like needs to, you know, I mean, just being in this business is a vulnerable act, you know, and I think I've definitely realized that it doesn't matter what you're doing, writing, acting, directing, you're presenting something which means something to you. And, you know, if it comes from a good place, then fantastic, you know, and it's great. You know, you see some things come out there and you think, how the hell did you think that was a good idea? You know, and people's heads needs to be checked. But, you know, but if you're presenting something like you're doing, you know, with this play, talking about everything we've spoken about, you know, yeah, it shows that, you know, we want to change things. And it's true, art, I'm going to say it again, we change the fucking world. We really, really do. And I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the plays and also your rehearsed readings, which are coming up in the very near future as well. The 2 we mentioned earlier. I hope people get down and get a little preview of what you're all about and everything in between. So for the last thing to say, Maria, is thank you very much for today. I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
And thank you for discussing your brand new work with me today. And I look forward to seeing it in the future and the more things that you get up to in the future as well. Keep me posted on like the next play that you're doing. And yeah, I'd love to hear your stories about HR at some point in the future. You should seriously pursue that. I think there's something there. You've got stories locked away up there. I can tell that.
Yeah, got to change all the names.
It's fine. They won't know it's them. It's okay. and even if it is them, who cares? Yes, it's your piece. Be proud of it. So Maria, if you just hang on, I'll finish the recording. If you just hang on, we'll have a little debrief afterwards and stuff.
Thank you.
There. Wow, brilliant stuff, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I'll be back very, very soon. And Maria Speight, thank you so much.
Thank you.